Today, we're taking a slightly different, maybe a bit more uncomfortable approach. Instead of looking outward at history or abstract theories, we're going to point the magnifying glass right back at ourselves. We're observing our own daily habits through the clinical, deadpan lens of a scientific true crime dossier. Because, let's be honest, we're investigating a massive global heist. The stolen item? Our time. So let's crack open the phone files and look at the evidence. We have to start at the very beginning of the incident. Picture the scene. The subject, meaning you, me, literally anyone, picks up their device. The stated intention is so pure, so incredibly innocent. The lock screen reads 2:14 p.m. The subject just wants to check the time. It's a split-second interaction, right? In and out. Well, fast forward, and here is the chaotic aftermath of that seemingly harmless action. 40 minutes later, the subject emerges from a total blur of apps, tabs, and notifications. They have somehow successfully memorized the floral arrangements of a complete stranger's wedding. They now possessed a surprisingly deep understanding of a complex conspiracy theory involving city pigeons. But critically, and this is the kicker, they still have absolutely no idea what time it actually is. And the real tragedy? This isn't some rare anomaly. This is just Tuesday. Which brings us to Case File 1, the just checking lie. The documentation here begins with a classic, completely self-inflicted deception. The subject confidently announces to the room, hold on, let me just check this one notification. Famous last words, right? This is the initial trigger, the absolute textbook beginning of a rapidly escalating spiral of chaos playing out in real time. But let's look at the stark reality hiding behind that tiny little buzz. An average phone session that starts with the phrase, just checking, doesn't take 30 seconds. It lasts exactly 27 minutes. And just look at this massive, hilarious gap between human intent and behavioral reality. The subject fully intended to open exactly one app to clear one alert. The actual clinical result? They opened 4 completely different apps that they never, ever intended to touch. It's like the thumb just develops a mind of its own. Investigators have actually mapped out this exact sequence of erratic behavior. It goes like this. The subject opens their messages. Boom, almost instantly, they get derailed by a story bubble at the top of the screen. They completely forget the original notification that started this whole thing. Finally, they lock the phone, having accomplished literally nothing, except maybe experiencing a bizarrely intense emotional reaction to a distant acquaintance's vacation photos in Italy. And the most damning piece of evidence? That original notification is still sitting there, completely unread. So our investigation takes a bit of a darker turn into some severe behavioral anomalies. Let's open Case File 2, the infinite scroll trance. Now, we're observing the clinical symptoms of an escalating cognitive detachment. We are essentially looking at a phenomenon where the human brain just uncouples from the physical actions of the body. Time is flying by, the clock in the background is spinning, but the subject, entirely unaware. The clinical definition for this is the scroll fog. It's a literal hypnotic condition where thumb movement just continues long after the brain has actually stopped processing any of the content. The eyes glaze over, the thumb shifts into pure autopilot. The subject is physically sitting on the couch, but cognitively, they are miles away. Through rigorous observation, we've categorized a few tragic symptoms associated with this fog. First, the subject will rewatch a short video, completely failing to register that it's a repeat. If you stop and ask them, they will legitimately forget which specific app they are currently using. And this state only breaks with a sudden physical jolt of panic when reality forcefully intrudes, usually because a partner or roommate has loudly shouted their name for the 3rd consecutive time. Now, when interviewed, subjects frequently, and honestly, probably genuinely, report an intention to enter the fog for a mere 2 minutes. Just a quick little brain break, they say. However, the recorded average duration of the scroll fog is a staggering 58 minutes. 58! Furthermore, forensic data confirms that absolutely no subject has ever, in the history of smartphones, actually hit the intended 2-minute mark. It is quite literally a statistical impossibility. All right, let's move on to a dramatic, almost feral transformation. Case File 3, the 1% battery panic. A critical state of emergency is triggered by one very specific, terrifying visual cue. A tiny battery icon turning red and flashing 1%. At this exact moment, all higher-level human reasoning just shuts down. It is instantly replaced by base, primal survival instincts. Just note the completely absurd reprioritization that happens in the subject's brain here. Suddenly, finding a power cable on an outlet becomes the single most urgent mission of their entire life. This quest for electricity aggressively supersedes major life responsibilities, like, say, a massive work or school deadline that the subject has been actively avoiding for the past 6 hours by using this exact device. Let's track the rapid-fire escalation of this desperate mission to find an outlet at any cost. Once that screen flashes 1%, social norms just evaporate. The subject will physically vault over living room furniture. They will mercilessly unplug a completely necessary household appliance, like a reading lamp, in a dark room. And if they are challenged, they will absolutely physically fight a sibling or roommate for access to that wall outlet. But as impartial investigators, we have to report the ultimate tragic resolution to this totally manufactured crisis. Once the device is safely tethered to the wall and that sweet life-giving power is restored, what happens? The subject immediately returns to the exact same infinite scrolling behavior that drained the battery in the first place. The cycle begins anew. Absolutely zero lessons are ever learned. Which brings us to the final, deadpan verdict of this entire investigation. We invented these magical glowing rectangles with the promise of unprecedented efficiency. The phone was supposed to save us time. Instead, as the evidence so clearly shows, it became the scene of the crime. As we close the dossier on this explainer, the investigation notes one chilling, inescapable fact. Somewhere out there right now, at this exact second, someone is watching or reading this very analysis completely sucked in. And that leaves us with one final, undeniable question for you to consider about your own impending behavior as we wrap things up. The evidence has been presented. The patterns are crystal clear. So tell me, are you about to check your phone?